Hi you guys, it's Miss Angela. Today we are going to be reading 101 Dalmatians. Pongo, Perdita, and their 15 puppies lived in the cozy little house in London. Their humans lived there too. Roger, who was a tall, thin, and played the piano, and Anita, who laughed a lot. They all got along splendidly and were very happy. Then one day the doorbell rang and in came Cruella de Vil, Anita's old friend from school. "I'm so glad the puppies have finally gotten their spots," Cruella said, stroking their soft fur. "I'll pay for them now." "Pay for the puppies?" gasped Anita. "Oh, Cruella, we couldn't part with them." "Don't be silly, Anita," said Cruella. "You can't possibly keep 15 puppies." "We are not selling them," said Roger, "and that's final." Furious, Cruella stamped out of the house. One frosty night a few weeks later, Pongo and Perdita went out for a walk with Roger and Anita. The puppies were at home, asleep in their baskets. Suddenly, two men burst into the house. They put all of the puppies into a big bag, then carried the bag out to their truck and sped away. After being in the truck for what seemed like hours, the 15 puppies found themselves in a room filled with many other Dalmatian puppies. On a couch in front of the television set were the two nasty men who kidnapped them. The other Dalmatians told them that the men worked for Cruella de Vil, who had bought the puppies from the pet stores. Back at home, Pongo and Perdita were horrified to find that their puppies were missing. "It's that evil Cruella de Vil," Perdita said, sobbing. "She has stolen our puppies. Oh, Pongo, do you think we'll ever find them?" "I have a plan," said Pongo. "Let's try the Twilight Bark." The Twilight Bark was a system of long and short barks used by the dogs that passed along news. The next evening, Pongo and Perdita went out on another walk with Roger and Anita. While the Dalmatians were out, they barked long and loud. They wanted all the dogs in London to be on the lookout for their puppies. Pongo waited for someone to answer his barks. It was a very cold night and most dogs were inside. Then Perdita added her bark to the Pongo's, and at last they heard a reply. "Message received. Most sorry about your puppies. Will do all I can to help spread the word," howled the Great Dane. That night, the Twilight Bark even reached a quiet farm where an old sheepdog known as the Colonel was laying asleep. "Alert! Alert!" shouted Sergeant Tibbs, a cat who lived on the farm. "Vital message coming in from London." The Colonel lifted one shaggy ear to listen to the faint message. 15 puppies have been stolen," he cried. "I heard puppies barking at old DeVille Mansion," said Tibbs. "You don't suppose—" The Colonel barked a message back to London. Then he told Tibbs, "We should investigate right away." They headed straight to the gloomy DeVille Mansion. Tibbs held on tight to the Colonel's back as they rushed through the snow. Once they arrived, Tibbs climbed up on the Colonel's shoulders. He peeked through the open window. "Good night," said the cat when he saw all the puppies. "There are a whole lot of you. I'm looking for 15 puppies who were stolen from London." "I was stolen," cried Lucky, one of the puppies, "and so were the brothers and sisters." The men heard the noises and went to investigate. Tibbs and Colonel ran away, but not before promising to get help. The next morning, Cruella de Vil arrived in her car. "It's got to be done today," she cried. "But you couldn't get a dozen coats out of the whole caboodle," protested one of the men, pointing to the puppies. "Then I'll have to settle for half a dozen," said Cruella. "Just do it." She dashed out and roared off in her car. Sergeant Tibbs and the Colonel had returned just in time to hear Cruella give the orders. "You kids better get out of there before they make coats out of you," Tibbs whispered. Then he shoved one of the puppies toward a hole in the wall. "It's too small," protested the pup. "Squeeze," ordered Tibbs, and the puppy got through. One by one, the other puppies followed. Suddenly, the two thugs realized that the puppies were escaping. The chase was on. Tibbs and the puppies scooted through the dark halls of the mansion, Soon they found themselves trapped at a dead end. The thugs raised their clubs to strike. At that moment, Pongo and Perdita crashed through the window with a blast of glass and freezing air. The angry Dalmatian parents fought off the astonished men as the puppies scampered to safety. Once the dogs were safely outside, they thanked the colonel and tipped and said goodbye. Then they hurried towards London. Pongo and Perdita led the way, their 15 pups and all the other Dalmatian pups right behind them. When they reached a frozen stream, they carefully crossed the slippery surface so that they wouldn't leave paw prints. Then they resumed the race home. All along the route, the Dalmatians were helped by other dogs. A black Labrador Retriever man arranged for them to ride to London in a moving van. The Dalmatians waited in the shed while the van was being fixed. Suddenly, Cruella's big car pulled up outside. Somehow she had followed their tracks. "Oh, Pongo," said Perdita, "how will we get to the van?" Pongo noticed lots of ashes in the fireplace. If they all rolled into the soot, they would look just like black labs. When the van was ready, the dogs marched outside, one after another. The soot-covered puppies were lifted into the van. Before Pongo had a chance to pick up the last one, a clump of snow fell from the shed onto the puppy. Pongo snatched up the pup, but the snow had washed away the soot. From her car, Cruella could see the white fur and black spots. "They're escaping," she shouted as the van moved away. Faster and faster went the van, but Cruella's car drew closer and closer. She was screaming in anger. Then she began to yell in fear. Her car skidded off the icy road. Cruella tried to stop it, but her car spun around and slid into a ditch. The last Dalmatian saw of Cruella, she was standing beside her wrecked car having a nasty temper tantrum. When the van reached the cozy little house in London, Roger and Anita were overjoyed. When they counted their dogs, they discovered that they now had 101 Dalmatians. "We'll have to buy a big house in the country," said Roger. "We'll have Dalmatian plantation." And they did exactly that. Pongo and Perdita and all the spotted puppies lived there happily ever after. And that is 101 Dalmatians by Disney.